From Beijing to Brooklyn, Cairo to Caracas, people are choking on toxic air. And it's no coincidence, it's always the most vulnerable who suffer most.
We need to value our earth.
In overcrowded cities, it's even worse. Take Lahore in Pakistan, for example, where people have been made to believe that clean air is a fantasy.
You can't step outside, you can't take the kids anywhere.
It was affecting everyone.
Coming up, the young women who've decided they've had enough, they're dragging the government to court, and they're not backing down.
We're telling them that you made it a policy and you promised us some things, and you just have to give us those things.
Just 2 degrees is on. Now.
I am so sorry that in 2025 I have to ask this question, but can you guess where this is? Delhi, Beijing. Nope. Try Chicago, Illinois. Yeah, the US of A. People there have been finding themselves squinting through a weird haze. Although maybe not that strange, since Chicago has been ranked one of the most polluted cities in the world this year. But it's due to a pretty nasty mix of wildfire smoke from Canada, as well as ozone pollution. More than 700 wildfires were blazing across Canada when we did this story in early August. But even when the smoke looks like it's gone, fine particles often linger in the air. And that's what we're digging into this episode, air quality, and why it matters more than you think.
I'm kind of aware that it's bad, but I'm kind of ignoring it because I want to be out here and I want to enjoy my time here.
I feel fine. Yeah. I mean, sometimes I actually do feel dizzy from the air quality, but today it's fine so far.
And let's just say that Donald Trump's administration isn't exactly clearing the air. In late July, the Environmental Protection Agency proposed scrapping a key rule that gives the government power to limit emissions from cars, power plants, and more. The administration argues the rollback could save up to $170 billion a year. But critics warn it'll come at a cost, including toxic pollution in the air, there'll be more heat-trapping gases, and more health risks to people, particularly in vulnerable communities. And we often talk about the need to eradicate air pollution. I mean, who doesn't want healthier lungs and clearer skies? But a report in the journal Communications, Earth and Environment suggests that using less pollutants may have had an adverse effect. Since 2010, countries across East Asia have made aggressive cuts to aerosol pollution, like sulfates from coal plants and factories. It was a huge win for public health, but international researchers writing for the journal now say that the same cleanup may have stripped away a natural cooling layer, causing the planet to heat up faster. They call it the unmasking effect.
To investigate this, scientists used 8 Earth system models, all part of what is called the Regional Aerosol Model Intercomparison Project. They found that sulfate emissions from East Asia dropped by around 75% in just over a decade.
I think that it's a monumental step forward that addresses the needs of individual nations, but it will give us the opportunity to reduce the warming of the planet by an entire 0.5 degree centigrade. It represents multilateral patience and diplomacy and efforts over a long period of time.
That cleared the air, but it also reduced the reflective haze that had been helping to keep global temperatures in check. The result was a boost of heat, roughly 0.07 degrees Celsius per decade globally. Now that may not sound like much, but in climate terms, even a fraction of a degree can tip the scales, meaning faster melting ice, hotter oceans, and more extreme weather.
This is a part of a G.
And the researchers say this is more than a theoretical model. The warming we're seeing today, especially over the North Pacific, lines up exactly with their projections. They concluded that cleaning up East Asia's air is likely one of the main reasons global warming has sped up, and why the Pacific's been heating faster than expected. So what does this tell us? That air pollution and climate change are linked, and solving one does not automatically fix the other. To effectively cool the planet, we still need deep cuts in greenhouse gases like CO2 and methane, while keeping up the fight for cleaner air. Because one without the other isn't enough.
Hey, it's time for a Just to Matter, our segment that spotlights how the tiny things have massive impacts. On this episode, you can neither see it nor taste it, riddle for you, but breathe it in and you will know it is everything.
Oxygen, a gas that makes up around 21% of the air around us. Not too much, not too little. Just enough to keep us alive. Without setting the place on fire, every cell in our body runs on oxygen. It powers our brain, muscles, and every single breath we take. Without it, our body starts shutting down in minutes. So yeah, this tiny gas is a huge deal. Oxygen also makes fire possible. Candles light, rockets fly, and our toast burns, all thanks to O2. It's even behind rust, so yeah, it's helpful and destructive. But while it keeps us alive, it also plays a role in the planet's climate chemistry. When we burn fossil fuels, oxygen bonds with carbon to make carbon dioxide, one of the biggest drivers of global heating. So every puff from a car or factory is oxygen teaming up with carbon and hanging around in the atmosphere for hundreds of years. But rest assured, oxygen isn't the villain, but it is in the room where it happens. So the next time you breathe in, thank the molecule that never stops working. Oxygen is smaller than anything you'll ever see, but powerful enough to keep the entire planet alive.
Meanwhile, there's a lot more than oxygen and carbon in Pakistan's air. At times, the air there is so bad, flights have to be grounded and schools have to be closed. During the winter months, it's especially unbearable. The smog gets so thick, you can raise your arms in front of you and barely see your own hands. Some blame Indian farmers across the border for burning crops, but others say the problem's local, the dirty fuels used in cars and trucks, as well as a construction sector that lacks environmental safeguards. Could be both, but either way, the result's the same. People there are breathing in toxic air every single day.
Step outside, you can't take the kids anywhere, you can't even open your doors and windows because then the smoke comes in and it's terrible.
जब हम घर से बाहर निकलते हैं स्मोक की वजह से आंखों में जलन शुरू हो जाती है.
On average, people in Pakistani cities are losing 2 years of their life on account of air pollution, and in Lahore, it's a staggering 5.8 years loss of life expectancy on account of air pollution.
इतने फैक्ट्रीज हैं, फैक्ट्रियों में जो ज़्यादा तो ये धुआं और ये माहौल को आलूदा फैक्ट्रीज करती हैं. अगर इनके लिए कोई प्लान गवर्नमेंट बनाए तो वो इस पे काबू पाया जा सकता.
For a country that isn't as industrialized as Pakistan is, this is really alarm bells ringing.
But it's not that the Pakistani government is just sitting on its laurels. Ministers say that they've been just as concerned about the bad air, and they say they've been creating policies to address pollution. The policy does look good on paper, right? But the reality is, in Pakistan, the air is getting dirtier, which is why two young activists from Islamabad have taken the government to court. They're saying that politicians need to honor their pledge to ensure that every citizen there has a clean and healthy environment. So you guys kicked off Sans Ligne d'Eau to fight for clean air as a basic right, life, health, education. But now you're literally taking the government to court. Was there a specific moment where you just snapped and thought, that's it, enough?
For me, I think the snap moment was 1 year of being sick. I'm a healthy person generally, but I shifted cities for my studies, and I would vomit basically every month, which I didn't understand why this was happening. But it was because of the horrible quality of air in Lahore, which is one of the most air polluted cities on the planet. Everyone would be sick, from people that are young like me, and then older people. And this was so normalized over there that when I would bring this up and talk about it and talk about how this is dystopian, essentially, people would say, this is we can't really do anything about it. This is just how we've been living for the last decade or so. And that is just better if you just get used to it and not complain about it so much. And so because I was getting so sick that I was unable to do my normal environmental climate activism, I was not able to perform my normal tasks. I couldn't really you couldn't really do anything. You couldn't The air pollution gets so bad you can't see things. Like when you go outside, it's just, you can't even, if you put your hand out like this, you can't see your hand. So it was that bad. And I was just shocked by this. And when I came home, which because we've filed this case in the Islamabad High Court, I came home and I saw that we've started construction here. The transport, the cars, the pollution here is increasing. The air pollution here is also increasing by the day, and it just broke my heart. And I knew that we had to do something. We started with a video, and then it just continued on to this court case. Yeah.
Hania, I appreciate you laying out what the issues were for your community and on a personal level as well. Maybe I can ask Rida, the petition asserts that air pollution violates constitutional rights to life, education, clean environment. Can you unpack how those things link together and why they're central to your case?
Recently, the government of Pakistan introduced the right to clean air as a specific right in the Constitution of Pakistan. So it has not been there before. There was Article 9, which is right to life, but there was not any right to clean and healthy environment. So they recently introduced it, obviously recognizing that there is air pollution happening, there is also climate change happening, so it's specifically impacting people. So we thought that, the right has now been introduced, so why not use it to ask them why it is not being implemented? And similarly, right to education, for example, there are so many kids who are out of school. Hundreds and thousands of kids were unable to go to school in Lahore or in Faisalabad or surrounding cities, Multan, and that is because of the air pollution. The kids, when they go out, they get sick, so they're not able to go to schools. So it is directly impacting the right to education as well. Similarly, right to health. There are so many people getting sick, and because Pakistan is a developing country, we do not have that standard of health environments. So it is also impacting that right. And then right to life as well, because there are around 100,000 people who are being impacted every single year because of air pollution in Pakistan.
Since you launched the campaign, I'm so curious about what the vibe's been like. Are there more people getting behind you, or has there been pushback?
This is a great question. I think that there's this last year we had unprecedented air pollution. So this bad air pollution, it went into levels of like 1,000, right? More than 1,000. And so it was just normal 2,000, those numbers in Lahore and in Islamabad. And so because those are some of the areas that we're focused on, which is why I keep repeating those two cities. But essentially, what we see is that people and influencers would not endorse this normally, or be very interested in posting about these issues or talking about these issues. But because this is an issue that affects you no matter what, right? Even if you're really wealthy, or if you're really poor, yes, there is that class discrimination. There is that difference in how much you can afford in terms of healthcare or what you can do, but it was affecting everyone, right? So then what we saw is that a lot of people started really responding to this campaign, really, supporting it to the extent that right now, for example, if I go to, any organizing event for activism, there's people from different areas that know about this campaign already. So I think that the response has been great, and also people are understanding the different kind of like myths that we've had, that both, for example, India and Pakistan, each of our governments tell us, which is that it's India's fault or it's Pakistan's fault because of the crop burning, right? But that's not the truth. The truth is that that has a very little aspect or hand to play, and what we see is that it's actually transport and the fuel that we're using that has the main cause of this air pollution, this construction that we see, these endless housing societies that we see, this unchecked, and without any accountability, you see a construction happening, and it's much easier to blame it on, our neighbors or blame it on someone. But at the end of the day, this is a problem that we have to solve ourselves. It has everything to do with how we plan our cities, how we decide to live within our centers, and how we've been, it has everything to do with governance and our awareness of the issue. So we've been trying to bust some myths related to this air pollution through videos that are targeted towards youth, and we've seen a lot of change in terms of people understanding, oh, okay, so this is the issue, and what we need is public transport. What we need is, stakeholder consultations before construction takes place, which, by the way, is part of the law. And what we need is air quality data that is up to date. And what we need is to acknowledge this year long, not just when the crisis has hit us.
I am so sorry that in 2025 I have to ask this question, but you're both young, you're both women, and you're both challenging the Pakistani state. I wonder if that has come with its own set of challenges and pressures.
I think yes, definitely that is a huge thing to be challenging any government around the world and just telling them that this is something that you've promised us and you're not giving it. So anywhere you're in the world, you're going to face resistance. But I think for us, our case is entirely based around the right that has already been given to us. So we're not asking for anything new from them. We're telling them that you made a policy and you promised us some things, and you just have to give us those things. And the best part about, obviously there has been resistance from the government as well, but I think the case has not really proceeded that much as of now, that we face a lot of resistance from them. And the best part is that we've gone to court for it. So going to court is our fundamental human right, and asking the court to ask the government to implement something is all right. So yeah, obviously when you resist against something, there is going to be opposition, whether it's from the corporations, whether it's from the fuel industry, whether it's the government. You're challenging them, and there is going to be resistance, but we have not seen that sort of resistance as of yet, and we hope we do not really see it.
There has been also this fundamental change within the Pakistani people and the government, etc., just in this country in general, as a result of the 2022 floods, where people have had this massive awakening and understanding of the climate crisis, of environmental issues, and they've taken it up in terms of you see a lot of people now working on these issues with a very genuine sort of working with grassroots communities, frontline communities, which unfortunately a lot of us are already. And so what we see is that there is that change, there is that reception to this issue. When you talk about climate change or when you talk about air pollution, people are now open to hearing about it, open to hearing about solutions.
So if the court rules in your favor, what's the first thing you'd want the government to actually do? And conversely, if the court does not side with you, what's next?
For the court case, a win would obviously be that if we're able to change our fuel standards and improve our fuel standards, and also if we're able to have public transport, better railways, and public transport, as in like within our cities, there is no concept of this where everyone sort of uses public transport to get by, or they use cycles to get by, or you walk. This is just something that is very it's a culture that we still need to develop, right? And that is what we're also working on side by side along this court case, trying to develop this culture within people and also trying to enact that change on the state level. It would be great if we could just have public transport as our primary mode of transport, and have the safety and security that we can as women using this public transport, or as people that might be disabled, or people that are children, like children. So that concept is really, for lack of a better word, weird here to have, for example, if I say I'm going on the metro, which by the way we do have a metro, it just doesn't get it everywhere. It's just something it's kind of mad for you to do that, unless you're someone that really doesn't have any other option and you have to use the public transport to get by.
I hope the court does rule in our favor, because it would directly mean that they're not in support of the right to life and right to clean and healthy environment, which is a huge loss to Pakistan as a country that is being most impacted by climate change itself. But if the court does not rule in our favor, the next option is to go to the Supreme Court of Pakistan, because right now our case is in the High Court. So we do have the right and the option in the Constitution of Pakistan to take this matter to then the Supreme Court of Pakistan. And what we've asked the court is not something beyond the Constitution. It is not something beyond the rules already existing. We've asked them to ask the government to just implement the policy. The policy has been made by the government, so we're not asking for anything extra. There's absence of monitoring systems right now in Pakistan. So if we do not have the monitoring systems, we cannot actually hold them accountable for it. And there's also no real-time air quality data that we have right now. So we need that system as well. And these are some of the asks, also to strengthen the Pakistan EPA, to increase their funding, to increase their accountability. So it's nothing that the court should not be able to ask the government to do. But if it does not happen, the Supreme Court is the next step.
We all feel it when the air is dirty, right? It's harder to breathe, our eyes sting, and if you have asthma, it can be dangerous. But the damage doesn't stop at our lungs. It turns out air pollution can mess with our minds too, especially kids. Researchers at Environmental Health Perspectives tracked over 10,000 children aged 9 to 11 and found something worrying. The more days kids breathed air filled with unsafe levels of PM 2.5, that's a tiny stuff in pollution, the more likely they were to show signs of emotional stress like anxiety and sadness. And this wasn't just a one-off. Those effects were still visible a year later.
Soon we'll have major cognitive challenges because children have been, and we can measure it, because they have been impacted by extreme events of climate change, including extreme heat, extreme smog, over long periods of time.
Not just these short-term problems, they have even long-term problems like risk of lower IQs in future, risk of various developmental problems in future, risk of diabetes, hypertension and obesity in future. So pollution is not just affecting the acute or the short-term outcomes, it is also affecting the long-term outcomes as far as newborn babies are concerned.
And that's our show. You know, South Asian nations are always reported to have the world's worst air. India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, they're all divided by borders, but have similar struggles when it comes to air pollution. But I've got to say, the pictures you've seen on this episode show dark and gloomy landscapes. So let's not paint the picture of this region with one brush. There's tons of color, dazzle, poetry, passion even. We leave you with these Pakistani artists using folk music to inspire action on the crisis, whether it's by planting more trees or making their homes more resilient to floods. See you next time.